There is not a Big Two in college football. It is the SEC and then everybody else. The Big Ten is the most overhyped conference in college football right now. This is a 4-team conference. Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan are the only 4 teams that are consistently good in the Big Ten. Now, occasionally, you'll have a team like Indiana that comes out of nowhere. Nobody expects them to be good, and then they rattle off a historically good season in their program history, and then you just have a bunch of mid after. The Big Ten does not have the same depth as what the SEC does. The middle of the pack teams outside of their top 4 are Illinois, who is occasionally a pretty consistent program with Brett Bielema being their head coach. He's pretty solid. He'll give you the occasional 9-10 win season every other 3 years. Nebraska hasn't been good since the beginning of time. Since I came out the womb, Nebraska has been dreadful. Iowa, their defense scores more points than their offense. Iowa is an embarrassment to college football. I don't know how Iowa even has fans. How can you watch 3 hours of nothing but great defense and good special teams and zero offense? Iowa fans have my respect. Rutgers, at best, they're a 7-win team. At worst, they consistently are a bottom feeder in the Big Ten. Minnesota, with PJ Fleck, they had their moment of fame back in 2019, 2020. That's it. They're just a consistent 6, 7, maybe 8-win team at their best on a good year. Wisconsin, they have really fallen off. They're not good at all. Lou Fickell, he's on the hot seat. He has one of the hottest seats in college football right now. And Michigan State, ever since Kenneth Walker left, they haven't been the same. Meanwhile, you look at the SEC, it's more than just Georgia, Texas, and Alabama, LSU. You got Oklahoma, who's considered to be a blue blood of this sport. Oklahoma gets judged off last season, when that was the worst season that Oklahoma football has had in over 2-3 decades. The chances of Oklahoma becoming what Nebraska is in the Big Ten and the SEC is incredibly low, especially with the amount of resources and money that they had to invest in the NIL, buying guys out of high school, buying guys in the portal. Oklahoma will be perfectly fine. Ole Miss is having their best stretch of football ever under Lane Kiffin. Missouri has had consecutive back-to-back 10-win seasons. Tennessee, on the good year, is good enough to be not just a playoff team, but a potential national championship contender. South Carolina, Shane Beamer is one of the most underrated coaches in college football. Nobody gets you ready for a big game better than Shane Beamer as an underdog. Texas A&M, they got the potential to be a national title contender. It's all about, can they actually produce the results on the field? But when you just look at the middle portion of the SEC, we didn't even get the teams like Florida or Auburn that have a lot of upside. It's just better football being played in the SEC outside of the top teams in the conference compared to the Big Ten, which has been a 4-team race for the last 2 decades. The majority of the best quarterbacks in college football play in the SEC. As I said earlier, there's not a bunch of offense being played in the Big Ten. The Big Ten's best returning quarterback this year is Drew Aller. I've never seen such a perfect head coach and quarterback duo than Drew Aller and James Franklin. Why? Because they are both heavily overrated. Drew Aller has never put together a good game against any quality team that Penn State has played on their schedule. Luke Altmaier is the second best returning quarterback that the Big Ten has. Come on now. He couldn't even cut that Ole Miss, but he has improved a lot, so I'll give him that. If they had a most improved player of the year award, it would have gone to Luke Altmaier last year, because at one point, he was unwatchable. So he's a pretty good quarterback, but To be honest, I would take Luke Altmaier over Drew Aller. That may be a hot take, but at least Luke Altmaier shows up in big games compared to Drew Aller relative to the amount of talent that Illinois gives Luke Altmaier to throw the football to. Dylan Raiola, the Patrick Mahomes from Timu, he has a lot of potential. He's pretty good. DeMar Williams from Washington, he's going to be something special. Think Jaden Daniels, but a lot smaller. Julian Sand at Ohio State, you see, he doesn't count because Ohio State, unlike the rest of this conference, knows what a good quarterback looks like. Dante Moore at Oregon, he's going to be pretty good. But the SEC, you got Lenore Sellers, who you can make the argument is the best quarterback in the SEC. This brother single-handedly won South Carolina games against Clemson, Missouri. This is Cam Newton reincarnated in a younger body. You got Garrett Nussmeier. Say what you want to about his second half implosions. This brother can rip that football. Not only does he have an incredible arm, but this guy is a gamer. He had a lot of yards that he was racking up at LSU last year. He's better than any other quarterback in the Big Ten right now. Would you rather have Drew Aller or Garrett Nussmeier? I'm taking Garrett Nussmeier. Any given Saturday, I want Nussmeier over Drew Aller. DJ Lagway, 12-9, never got more hype. Arch Manning, of course, we know the nepotism behind his last name. John Mateer, he was a baller at Washington State. All of these quarterbacks would start over Drew Aller and Luke Altmaier. It's not even close when you look at the quarterback play in the SEC compared to the Big Ten. And then the NFL, they tell you everything you need to know about which conference they rather have players drafted from. The SEC, the NFL wants SEC players. It shows it in the stats. 15 first-round picks in this past year's draft were SEC players. The SEC had 9 different teams with a first-round player selected. The NFL only cares about players from Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and Oregon out of the Big Ten. Nobody else outside of those top 4 teams is getting drafted in the first round. The SEC has had more top 10 picks in the last 16 years than any other conference combined. The Big Ten is tied in second with the Big 12 at 28 top 10 picks. The SEC has 61. The NFL wants SEC players for a reason because they know if you want to give your team the best shot at winning at the highest level in the NFL, you get players from the best conference in college football. Georgia literally won the Philadelphia Eagles a Super Bowl. They literally have nothing but Georgia and Alabama players on their squad. That's why they won the Super Bowl. It's no surprise. It's no surprise. When you assemble a team from the 2 best programs in college football, of course you're going to have a lot of success. College football runs through the SEC. Big Ten fans and college football fans don't want to admit it because they hate that the SEC is just better than everybody else. They want to believe that there is a level playing field. I want to believe that. I want to believe that the Big 12, the ACC, they have a shot at knocking off anybody in the SEC outside the Mississippi State and Kentucky because they're just miserable. But if you want to put those teams in the Big Ten with the amount of mid-offense that's played, I promise you they have much more success because the conference is more weak in depth compared to the SEC. The SEC is like the Royal Rumble. If you watch WWE, you know what the Royal Rumble is. You got like 40, 50 people, and the last man standing gets the main event spot at WrestleMania. That's what the SEC is. It's the Wild Wild West. There's a reason why the Big Ten has only had 2 different teams win a national championship out of this conference in the last decade. Outside of Michigan and Ohio State, it's Penn State who hasn't won a national championship since the fucking 80s. The SEC, meanwhile, yeah, they haven't won a national championship the past 2 years. That's because they wanted to give the Big Ten an opportunity to win one. They wanted to give the rest of college football And college football fans will break from dominating the sport. It's not as if the SEC didn't win the last 4 straight national championships with 3 different teams prior to Ohio State and Michigan State finally winning theirs. The SEC since 2000 has won 15 national championships. That doesn't even include Texas and Oklahoma. People, there is no Big 2 in college football. It's the SEC and then everybody else. There's a reason why Greg Sankey is coming off like he's Satan. Because the SEC runs college football. It's not about head-to-head. It's about what have you put into the NFL? How well are you recruiting? And what does history tell us about the SEC? They are just better than everybody else. They have more high-level teams in their conference. Even their middle-of-the-pack teams are better than the middle-of-the-pack teams in the Big Ten. Indiana, the only quality team they played was Ohio State. We saw what happened to Indiana when they went up against Notre Dame in the first round. They got belt to ass. And Curt Cignetti is a really good coach. But when you are playing in the SEC, you put Indiana in the SEC, they become Vanderbilt. Oklahoma had a down season because they were a Big Ten team their first year in the SEC. You can't win in the SEC like you're Iowa. All defense, relying on great special teams with 0 to no offense. You can't win that way in the SEC. You put Iowa and Kirk Ferentz in the SEC, they don't even reach bowl eligibility in this conference. Like, the amount of depth top to bottom in the SEC trumps the Big Ten. On-field results aside, like, the squirrel finds the nut every once in a while. Oh, okay, sometimes you got to give a dog a bone. And that's what the SEC is doing. They just don't want to burn out their audience. They want to make it entertaining for everybody else. So if the Big Ten wins their 3rd straight national title, it's more than likely going to be either Ohio State, Penn State, or Oregon, because those are the only 3 teams that consistently matter. Meanwhile, in the Big Ten, since 2010, they've had 4 different national championships. Come on now. Are you forgetting about 2010 Auburn with Cam Newton? When's the last time the Big Ten had a quarterback anywhere as good as what Cam Newton was in 2010? Come on now. Like, the best players in high school want to play in the SEC. 7 out of the top 10 recruiting classes from 2025 were SEC schools. Do you know who were the only 3 Big Ten teams that finished with top 10 recruiting classes this past cycle? Take a guess. I'm pretty sure you already know. Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon. Recruits rather play at Auburn. Can you even tell me what Auburn is in Alabama? Is that a city or something like that? Recruits rather play at Auburn, coming off a 5-win season, rather than playing at Penn State. Come on now. The recruits, the NFL, the history shows everybody who truly runs college football. So let's stop living in this lie that it's the Big 2. It's the SEC and the Big Ten. No, that is a lie. It's the SEC and then everybody else. And if you disagree, let me remind you who has won more championships than any other conference since the year 2000. Who has had more first-round draft picks in the last 16 years than everybody else? Who has had the more top 25 recruiting classes than any other conference? It is the SEC. Ding, ding, ding. If you answer that question with that answer, you got it right. Because the SEC is college football. Ohio State doesn't really belong in the Big Ten. They should be playing in the SEC. If you take Ohio State out of the Big Ten, you have nothing but what Michigan did with Jim Harbaugh. Ohio State and Michigan are the only 2 programs that have consistently been in the national championship conversation. Thank you, God, that they killed the Pac-12, because if you didn't get USC or Oregon, this conference will grow incredibly boring and stale fairly quickly. But in the SEC, even without Texas and Oklahoma, it still is the wild, wild west. There is no Big Two. It's the SEC, and everybody else comes after.